This war of mine, this is your review for 2. Good day, my name is Joe. Today I'll be going over this war of mine, the board game, and how it plays with 2 players. Now I saw Mike get board games for 1 play this, and I thought the gameplay loop was intriguing, so I really wanted to pick this up. This is a survival game, really a narrative survival game. You have survivors in this war who are just kind of bystanders, who don't have much investment in the war, but you learn some of their backstories. They're holed up in this house. They need to search for supplies, just striving and trying to live. It's a cooperative game where you will be kind of a little bit of base building, a little bit of just survival mechanics, scavenging, exploration, a big narrative time event. So this game, you start off with 3 characters, and you're going to hopefully take those characters to the end. I think there's about 10 or so days that you need to survive. So let's get on to how to play. So in this war of mine, it comes with a journal, and I was looking for the rule book around, and I found this journal where you start. It tells you how to set up, and to be honest, it just kind of steps you through. This is one of my favorite mechanics, but I'll probably get into later, where just you set up the board, you randomize the board, you randomize your, who you're starting with, the people you start with, the supplies you have, and you just go through this list. The morning where you'll pick an event, and you read an event, and it's going to add some cold outside. It's going to add, maybe it takes a little bit more food. The food's a little bit more expensive around. Maybe there's snipers right outside that are really looking to pick any stragglers off in this war type atmosphere. Then you go on to the day actions, where you can meet with visitors, clean up the house, the shelter, build new parts of the shelter, poke about, board up buildings, rest if you need to. This is where you can do your kind of action phase. Your worker placement happens here. However, if some of your people are fatigued, if they have illness, if they're miserable, if they have wounds, this can all take away from actions. Everybody has a base action of 3, but as soon as they may get some of these statuses, they just may not feel well enough. They may not feel like doing as much and being as healthy and working and being a part of the collective as the rest. Then you can go into the dusk phase where, everybody needs to be able to drink some water or eat, or they're just going to be miserable, hungry, and you just need to make sure your people are well nourished. Or once again, they start to get closer to that breaking point that you really don't want your survivors to be in. Then the evening phase, you can choose to either sleep. You can choose to sleep on the floor or in a bed. But then you go into, somebody needs to guard the door. This is wartime. You got beggars. You have people coming on the door. You got looters. Anybody wants to steal your stuff. So you need one person to watch the door. But you can also send somebody out. They'll get a little bit more tired. Send them out to try to go to the general store that's kind of close by, explore the general store. They may want to go to the hospital, any of these locations over here, and bring back supplies for later. But you're going to have that person, watching the door, and you have to make a decision. Do you want to rest people, watch the door, or go out? So you do your scavenging phase, where you'll try to scavenge these for different loots, for different parts, for different food, the things you may need in the upcoming days. Then the night raid happens, where somebody's going to try to bang down the door, get around the door, maybe. Once again, you never know what's going to come out in the night raid. And you finally come into the dawn phase, where your scavengers return. You need to bandage and give people medicine, draw a card that, who knows what's going to happen. Somebody may be addicted to cigarettes, and you really need to make sure that they have a cigarette, or they just may get a little bit more miserable, and push them a little bit closer to the edge. Then you have a narrative card that you get to draw 2 and keep 1 that you'll be able to play and really give you a slight bonus in the days to come. So that's the general flow of this War of Mine, the board game. So let's see a little bit more what I thought about the game. So the rules and references in this game, I would say, are as straightforward as they come. It's one page of setup, and then you're ready to play. Sure, it may take a little while to set up. There's a lot of different cards to put out, but overall, there's a FAQ in this big book of scripts that you may read. But overall, it's a one-page setup, and then you get going. Now, you do need to make sure you read everything on this page because there's a lot of little things on here. But overall, it's one of those games where, in 10, 15 minutes, you're kind of ready to play. The rules in this game, really straightforward. I walked you through basically how to play the game. You just follow the steps in the rule book, and the components I really like. They give you this components box where you just have, like, when you're searching, when you're scavenging, there's some feeling when you're searching through stuff, in the findings pile, and you're trying to find it, within all these different chits and tokens. It kind of feels good. It feels like you're scavenging along with the person. So I really like the components in this game too. So let's talk about setup and table size. Well, talk about setup a little bit. Takes you about, I'd put it at about 15 minutes. And the table size, well, I'd put this as a little bit larger, probably at a 3x4, 3x5 area, but it is going to take a decent amount of space. Now, with more people, it won't take up any more space. So let's go into the gameplay, and a lot of people aren't going to like a game like this. This is a narrative-driven game. This is what I would consider a Ameritrash. And if you don't know what that means, don't think of it as a trash game. Think of it like you have event decks and you're rolling dice. A lot of randomness. A lot of the game is going to be in the cards you draw, in the stories you read that the cards, say, hey, read this narrative event for doing this. When people say, Ameritrash, it's really just a random kind of experience. And that's really what this game is. And that's great. I love these kind of games. I love the games with the flow where there really aren't that many rules. The gameplay unfolds differently from the different cards you draw, the different actions, the different dice you roll. The randomness is part of the fun for this game. Now, I say fun where I'm having a good time, but it does have some more somber themes. It has some more, heavy themes. When a character dies, you do, read a small epilogue on them. And it really does feel bad. You really feel for the survivors. You can see some of the demises happen over time, and that does kind of weight. So this is not like a light-hearted board game like some of the others, but this is a narrative-driven board game where you really do feel the weight. Same people, with Frostpunk, you feel like when you lose people, you lose meeples, they're not quite as attached. These people have names, when you lose, Amelia, in my current playthrough, Amira and Katia, I think they both, I think one of them died to hunger and one of them died to wounds because I just didn't have the bandages. It's narrative things like that stick with you. It's not just an action, a worker placement game. It's not just, follow this game. It's really a narrative-driven game. So if you like that kind of gameplay, a night raid comes in, there may be 10 things to choose from. You meet a resident while you scavenge, there's a ton of cards. When you explore, you need to flip card after card to see what you find. Visitors, well, you may want to trade, but you may get a traveler who wants to join your band of survivors, and it's a nice narrative. Well, I don't want to say nice. It's a darker narrative themed board game. I would equate this to kind of Mr. President, and I love that game too. I really like Ameritrash games. I love the randomness in the events. Every game plays differently, and the rules are so small in these games because the flow is the gameplay. So I really did enjoy the gameplay of this. So is this game good for two? So I did play one game with my wife, and you have to be on the same footing. I don't think she enjoyed it as much. In the journal, there are these points where you hand the book back and forth. It was a little bit, each day is going to take about 45 minutes or so, 30 to 45 minutes, just how much, I don't want to say bookkeeping there is because all the bookkeeping's on the table, but just how many things to think about, really what you want to do. So 30 to 45 minutes, if you're really invested in the board game. And like I said, about 10 days or so that you'll be going through. It just tells you to pass the book back and forth. We ended up not passing it back and forth every time it did say so. I was more or less the driver and the leader of the group. But there are rules in the journal that say whoever has the rule book, so you pass it back and forth a lot, does get the final say. But we made a lot of decisions together. But there were times where we really needed to game the board game to try to, survive, push the luck during the exploration. And, like I said, I think it's decent for 2 players if they're both in the same mindset. My partner likes a little bit lighter board games, so it's a little bit tougher to stomach. When we lost a couple characters, it was really tough. And once again, you lose a couple people in Frostpunk. Well, they don't really have names. You just lose, you go down from 30 to 29 people to 28. It's very, sombering. But when you actually lose, Marin or Katia or somebody like that who has a name, who has a little bit of personality, from the cards, from the little stories, it kind of just feels a little bit more weighty. So, it's a decent game for 2. I think for 1, this is probably where this game lives best. So you can really be introspective with some thoughts, put on some music, and really just focus. Now, like I said, it plays well with 2, but passing the book back and forth can get a little bit. You can forget quite a bit, and the big decision making come in the night phase and scavenging, and then the day phase where you're actually doing the actions around there. And once again, I do want to give a shout out to Mike at Board Games for One. Please check out his channel. He's the one who I was watching some of his narrative playthroughs, and I told myself that I like that style and I want to try that too. So please check out his playthroughs. He's super narrative. He's super in-depth in the board game, really tied to, some of the characters, gives them life, does a great job with reading this book of scripts. I mean, this book of scripts has, 1,800 little lines, and they can come from anywhere, and this is awesome. But once again, check out his channel, Board Games for One, kind of the counterpart for Board Games for Two. Now, I do play a lot of solo board games, so that's why I like his stuff. I like his channel. So this is a great game. I would say mainly I would get this for 1 player, but it can be played with 2 or more. Just know that both people kind of need to be on the same wavelength. So I really enjoyed this board game. Like I said, a lot of randomness, a lot of dice throwing, some worker placement, but you never really know what's going to come up next, and you just have to roll with the punches, and I really like that. If you enjoy this game and you haven't already, check out Mr. President 2. It's the same kind of style, except on a more grand scale where you just follow a whole bunch of things. That's a little bit lighter theme where you are the president, but I like these 2 games really tie a lot of similarities together for me. So survival game, a lot of randomness, but I really enjoy this game for what it is. Not the happiest game I've played, but really, really good game. So that's all I have for the review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Until next time.